Please. Okay, my brothers and my sisters. My name, as you know, is James Anyabwile. I am the spiritual teacher of the God in Action Ministry Spiritual and Cultural Center here in the South End of Albany, New York. We thank you for tuning in. We'll wait, I'm not going to wait for people to come in. I know you'll see this, but we welcome you. Thank you. You could have done so many different things. You didn't have to tune in. We do not take your presence lightly. Ashe. So we're going to play some music, and hopefully that we're going to get this information out to our people. All right, we play this song here. Queen Omori, Hotep to you. Hope you can hear me. Brother Shikiri.
I can't breathe. No justice, no peace. Hand in hand together we stand. Black lives matter. We have always mattered throughout history. Glorious African kingdom before slavery. 300 years like these converted nations built on our backs. Many believe we were animals because our skin is black. Say we're only 3/5 human, and that mentality is still a reality. Police brutality, harassment, and discrimination.
Queen Donna, Hotep to you. Amandla.
Hands up, don't shoot. I can't breathe. No justice, no peace, no peace.
Brother Tybidi in the house. Hotep King. Amandla.
We're equal in the human family. We gave this nation and the world soul and humanity. We matter cause our contributions help and inspire. We matter. All people everywhere to reach higher. We matter cause we are God's children, beautiful to behold. We are far more precious than diamond, silver, and gold. One of a kind and second to none. Our value and our worth, just as great as anyone. Anywhere on earth we proclaim.
Travel safe, brother. Keep down on the road.
No peace. Hand in hand together we stand. Life matter. America's got a lot of problems, but together we can solve them. Baltimore, Chicago, LA, New York, Ferguson, we need everyone. Red, brown, yellow, black, and white. Our precious in His sight. Catholic, Protestant, and Jews, Muslim, Buddhist, and Hindu. Irreplaceable and extraordinary. Sing it out. Sing it proud.
Hands up, I can't breathe.
Ashe, my brothers and sisters. Black Lives Matter, and I'm not talking about the Black Lives Matter organization. We know that was all scam, had nothing to do with us. However, we thank you, brothers and sisters, once again for tuning in. We pray that all is well. This is lunchtime, brunch time. Get your coffee, your tea, whatever it is. This is information education hour. And so once again, my name is James Anya Wheeler Wilson, the spiritual teacher, aka awakener of the God in Action Ministries family. Once you come in, brothers and sisters, you are part of the tribe, the gang, the posse, the family, the village. All right. So once you come in, so therefore we have responsibilities. Please let somebody know that we are on live. Share the information with somebody. Each one, reach one, each one, teach one. You can't make them watch it, but just like, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for somebody else. Ashe? So thank you, brothers and sisters. And we're gonna have a great speaker on this afternoon, brothers and sisters, and I'm gonna get to that. Very, very eloquent, very intelligent, well-studied person, business person. All right. I will introduce her to her. But let me let you know what my purpose is. My job or my assignment, my mission is to inform you, not try to convince you. I'm not trying to convince you to believe what I believe, to accept what I accept, to like what I like, but to inform you, not to convince you. All right. And also my job or my mission is to teach you how to encourage you to be a more of an analytical and critical thinker. All right. So that you don't have to accept what anybody and everybody tell you. All right. You have a mind of your own. All right. To be able to make decisions for yourself. My job, my mission is to challenge you. What we know, we have to understand there's so much more that we need to know. There's so much more that we can know. You know what I'm saying? And we know that when our minds are challenged, it causes what is called cognitive dissonance. It's a struggle. It's painful. But don't be afraid to open your mind, to learn something. Challenge yourself. All right? Because there's always some information, something you can learn every single day. I'm not trying to convert you to any religion. No. I don't subscribe to any religion. I'm not religious. I'm a spiritual person. So that's not what my mission is. So I pray that your time with us is very encouraging, and you will have an experience that you can share with other people. All right. Now, I'm going to bring in our sister on this afternoon, who will be speaking with us today. And I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, but it's something I want to read before she chimes in. Hold up 1 second. All right, please. I'll bring her in. There's one thing I want to deal with before she chimes in. 1 second. Oh, shoot. I'm back. Hocus pocus, y'all. All right. We got our beautiful sister Queen. Queen Margot. Is it Margot? I put Margot. Oh.
It's like escargot. You don't say escargot, you say escargot. So the T is silent.
Oh, okay. Sister Margot. All right. Fresh Food Gazette. Sister Margot Jones Henderson, we thank you, sister, for allowing us to allowing us to spend time with you, and we're looking forward to hearing the information that you got to share. And this is a sister that we have done. Well, we have God in Action Ministries have done events in our community, and she has participated and collaborated with us at time with our events. And also she's I don't want to tell all the stuff, let her tell herself. She's an entrepreneur, and she would come and do her thing, her and her family. But I'm gonna let her introduce herself. All right. So, brothers and sisters, let somebody know we on, because there's a lot of people who gonna need to hear this, or who's probably thinking and feeling what she's gonna share. All right, but don't know who to talk to. They may think they're the only one who's feeling this way or experience what they experience. All right, Sister Margot, talk to the people. Introduce
Hey,
yourself. Let them know who you are.
my name is Margot Jones Henderson.
You muted yourself. Let me
Oh, I'm
see.
sorry. If anyone has ever, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Been to any of the events that Brother Wilson and I have attended. I am the owner operator of Molly Natural Products, and I created the business for our people to provide a twofold service. One, to offer products to our people that are healthy and actually to bring about the best health that we can have. Also, the second piece of my business is to educate our people, because we are usually always the first to get hurt and the last to know. So I wanted to take action to do something about that. So we would no longer find ourselves being victims of the system, people, places, and things, and feeling like we have to just we have to just get along, go along to get along, or to take whatever they dish out to us, like the scraps
Mhm.
from the table, like what the slave master would give us sometimes. They would get along or to take whatever they did.
My bad. Yes, sis.
So they would give us the scraps from the table, everything that they picked over and they didn't want. They would, kind of push it off to a platter and give it to us, and felt like they were doing us such a big favor by doing that. And we still see that happening in our communities with a lot of things that go on. We get the dregs of everything. So we have to find it within ourselves to build up our self-esteem and our self-worth, so we give ourselves value where we know that we are entitled to more than scraps from somebody's table.
I say.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that I wanted to do, to empower each and every one of us, so we can pass that empowerment on generationally to our future generations, our children's children's children, so they would be well adapted to being powerful people, powerful in mind, body, spirit, and soul.
I say. Beautiful. Beautiful. Is that okay? You heard what our sister? She's about taking care of business. She's about our people, have our best interests in mind, and without health, you know what I'm saying? Without health, I mean, we can't even enjoy life. There's a lot of sick people and black folks on top of every list of every major disease. You know what I'm saying? So that health thing is very important, and we need more people like her to, you know, put their foot, put their boots on the ground to help our people. You know, and so we
Yes.
thank you, sister, for that. Um, what we're gonna do today? I'm just stuttering. What we're gonna do? We're going to um, deal with a topic. All right, sister, was you finished?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna deal with the topic. Those of you who saw the flyer, the subject or the topic is religious indoctrination, a recipe for mental control. Religious indoctrination, a recipe for mental control. I see you, Sister Angel. I see you on. I see you. All right, and our sister's going to share her personal story about how religion was like a tool used to control the mind in her life. All right, she'll tell you in her own way, but it's something I want to read before I let her come in. Okay, that's all right, sis.
No problem.
All right. There are three major Western religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Them are the major religions, right? Christianity is the largest of those religions, numbering up to 2 billion confessing Christians. They confess, but I don't say they all practice it, but they are confessing. So it's 2 billion globally that confessed that they're Christians. Now, according to the Center for Study of Global Christianity, there are 200 Christian denominations in the United States and 45,000 globally. Did you hear that? I read somewhere that 8 out of every 10 Black person is a Christian. All right. So most of the Christians, the Christian sects, I said it was 45,000 globally, or these groups, 45,000 of these under the Christian umbrella. Am I right? And they all have different interpretations of the Bible and different beliefs when it comes to their religion. The question should be, brothers and sisters, which group out of the 45,000 globally, or the 200 denominations in America, which group is the right one? Which one is the real one? Which one is the God-sent one? Which one is telling the truth? I'm just trying to get you to think. According to scripture, I'm paraphrasing, it says, God is not a God of confusion. And if that is true, it's evident that man is confused. And a confused man or woman who leads other people, they also become confused. All right? I just want to share that with you because the religion that we have, all of them, but we talk about Christianity today, it was forced on our ancestors by their enslavers. And that same that same brand or that same Christianity, that religion was passed down to us. Are you hearing me? As Black people. It was never designed to elevate us. It was never designed to empower us. It was never designed to teach us correctly, because it is a system of oppression and mind control. Facts over feelings. Once again, the subject my sister's going to be dealing with is religious indoctrination, a recipe for mental control. Sister, you on. The floor is yours.
Awesome.
Ashe.
I became involved. Well, I'll give you a little bit of history of who I am and where I'm from. I am a transplant to New York. I came here to New York with my mom from Chicago, Illinois as a teenager. And growing up, she always raved about New York, and she wanted to come back home here. Even though she was a transplant herself, she basically was born in Mississippi, and my grandparents moved from Mississippi to New York. So she grew up in New York. And when she moved to Illinois in Chicago, she always talked about going back home. She met my dad there. They got married. They had 7 children. And she always talked about how great home was and how she always wanted to go back home. So my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, who were very active in my life as a child, they used to come to visit us at least a couple times a year during the summer and also during the Christmas holiday. They used to come and visit us all the time. And my grandmother used to always say to us all the time on a regular basis that we were her gifts from God. She used to say that all the time because she had prayed for us. Because even though my father had 2 siblings, my grandparents one of my father's sister had 1 daughter, and she was like 25, 26 years old at the time, and there were no other children, just her. So then 25 years later, my father meets my mom, and then 'cause she always wanted a lot of grandchildren. And then my father turned around, married my mom, and then had 7 children. She was in her glory with that. And she loved us so much. I remember when she would come around, I didn't even know personally as a child how I could contain the amount of love that I felt. My body was too small to contain the amount of love that I had for this woman. She was that powerful of a person in my life. And she was an avid churchgoer. As a matter of fact, when they would come to visit, it was expected that we had to go to church. My father was opposed to going to church, but he never had the courage to actually tell his parents that he didn't want to go. But one day he decided to bury his shoes in the backyard so he wouldn't have to go. And it was really crazy because he was pretending like he couldn't find his shoes. Well, guess what? He never was able to remember where he actually buried those shoes in the yard, so he never found his shoes later. So I thought that that was really interesting, and that was kind of perplexing to me as a child, because I was like, okay, well, he's an adult. I don't know why he can't tell his parents that he doesn't want to go to church. But when you get older, as an adult, when you're dealing with your parents, you understand that level of respect that you have for them, that you don't cross that line. You don't cross that line. So he didn't do that. So he did that instead. Um, as I said, my fraternal grandparents, they loved us dearly, and were in our lives a lot when I was growing up. I mean, they were there all the time. Um, as time went on, my parents' relationship deteriorated, and they ended up getting a divorce by the time I was 8 years old. The only time we went to church was when my grandparents would come. Otherwise, we were not churchgoers. So um, once my parents separated, my mom, my father, I feel, and I talked to him about this before he died, was so upset about their relationship deteriorating and my mom wanting to separate from him, that he decided that he wasn't going to be around in our lives. So at 8 years old, my father just really kind of disappeared in my life, which was a culture shock for me because my dad was always there. So now all of a sudden he wasn't there, and I was actually closer to my father than I was to my mom. My mom wasn't really a person that had intimate relationships. She shied away from that. And when I would try to have that type of closeness with her, it she got all messed up about trying to do that. So I wasn't used to that. So my father was gone. My mom had to go out and get a job to take care of 7 children by herself. She did that, but she would end up leaving us at home at night by ourselves because my mom's shift that she worked, because she became manager of a barbecue house in Chicago, and she would leave us at home like 3 o'clock until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when she would come home. And she was always worried about us. So one day, I guess on her way to work, she met these people called Jehovah's Witnesses. And they talked to my mom and encouraged my mom to study. And all of a sudden, these strange people were coming to our house. And my mom would have Bible study with them. And then after the Bible study, and she was studying so long, then we started going to the Kingdom Hall for 5 meetings a week that they have. They usually have 2 meetings on a Sunday, 2 meetings on another day in the week, and then they have another meeting that's maybe about an hour and a half. The other 2 days, it's like 3 hours that you would be at the Kingdom Hall on those days. So at the same time, while my mom was studying, they were providing support to her, providing, someone to be at the house with us, a babysitter when she would go to work. And that made my mom feel a lot better about the fact that she didn't have to leave us at home alone at night, because a couple of times, people knowing that lived in the building that we lived in, a couple of times some teenagers tried to break into the house while she was gone, and she was really worried about that while she was at work. um so then after that, my mom, I think she studied maybe about 6 months or so, and she had decided that being one of Jehovah's Witnesses wasn't for her. And they basically informed her and told her that if she did not become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, that they would be removing the supports that they gave her. So my mom had to make a choice. Do I want them to strip me of the support that I really need in taking care of my children? Or do I become a part of this religious organization because that's what they want? So she decided to do that because she didn't want us to be at home alone and to remove the supports that they were providing to her. So from the time I was 8 years old, up until I was 25, at 18, I decided to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, even though I was grappling with the religious organization myself. But they always use fear as a way to basically say, oh, if you leave the organization, the devil's going to take you over and you're going to become a minion of the devil and things like that. They always would talk about that. And they also, at the meetings, would talk about examples of people that left the organization and how some of them became possessed by demons and other things like that. And that kind of stuff really would scare you, especially when you're reading passages in the Bible and they talk about demonic possession, and you no longer have any control over yourself, and all the terrible things that can happen with that demonic possession or the demonic influence of the devil in your life. They always talked about that a lot. So as I grew up, I had a strong fear against that. But as I got older too, and your brain starts to develop, I just couldn't shy away or put away things that I thought that were contradictory. And when I would ask questions, there would be silence, or they would say it's a mystery. And I could not accept those answers. Can you still hear me? Because I'm not hearing you.
Did they ever tell you don't you dare question God when you ask questions?
Um, they did start. They would insinuate that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, me being the lowly person, didn't have the right to be able to question God. But I said, well, but the Bible said God only helps those that help themselves. So, I mean, isn't questioning a way of helping yourself so you can get understanding? And when I would say things like that, then there'd be silence in the room because they didn't have an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would basically just kind of push that to the side and push me to the side, and basically um, never answer that question. And I was frustrated with that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so as time went on, all of these things that were building up in the back of my mind, in the back of my spirit, sometimes when I would be at home alone, I would say, I'm really not comfortable with not getting the answers that I need to be a part of this religious organization. It's really bothering me a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I was going to push harder to ask questions. But one of the things that was the pinnacle things that made me decide that I needed to leave the organization was because I decided that I wanted to go to school for engineering, and they were completely and totally against it. They told me that I needed to go to school to become a home health aide instead of me pursuing a career in engineering.
Mm.
And I was like, everybody's not meant to be a home health aide, and that's not for me. I rather do something else, and this is what I want to do. And they really worked hard to try to discourage me from doing that. I mean, I remember them actually sitting me down with the board of elders of our kingdom hall that we went to try to discourage me
Mm.
from doing it. And I was like, why is this so? And the thing that it was contradictory to that I thought was very interesting, because they always would say you're in the world and no part of the world, and that you need to leave Caesar's things to Caesar and God's things to God. You know, materialism is a tool of the devil and all of that. But yet, one of the elders in the congregation that we went to, he was the CEO of US Steel in the Albany area at the time. There was a couple of other elders that actually own their own businesses
Mm-hmm.
that were elders. And I said, okay, this seems pretty contradictory to me. Why is this man the CEO of a major corporation if we're supposed to be not being materialistic? And they don't want you to pursue having a business or a career where you can have some financial stability. It seemed contradictory to me. And I would
Mm.
bring that up sometimes, and they would insinuate that my circumstance was different. And I would ask, why is my circumstance different? And they wouldn't answer that question. They basically would use scripture to
Mm.
remind me that I had a place and I needed to stay in that place.
Mm.
And that did not sit well with me at all. And
Mm-hmm.
as I started to open my mind to let go of the indoctrination that I had been subjected to since I was 8 years old, I was like, I started crying and praying a lot, saying, Father God, if this is where I need to be, you need to show me the way, because I really feel that there is something wrong here. There's so much hypocrisy going on. Some of the elders' children were doing things that they actually should have been severely discipline for, and it wasn't happening to them. But other people in the congregation, if you weren't an elder's child or something like that, you would get this fellowship, which is really like kicking you out of the organization and putting you in a place where, if you decided once you were disfellowshipped that you wanted to stay in the organization, you had to still attend the meetings, but you couldn't participate in anything, and everybody had to act like you were invisible.
Mm.
Okay, and I said, this is a terrible way to treat somebody. That I can't even go up to that person. You can't even go up to them and talk to them, greet them, acknowledge their presence. None of that. They just would sit in the Kingdom Hall, and once the meeting was over, they had to leave because they could not talk or meet and greet anybody in the congregation. They had to leave immediately, and they had to deal with that type of terrorist tactic for at least a year, or at least until the elders deemed that you had been punished enough, as far as I was concerned. Okay,
Mm.
and then they would allow you to come back into the organization and then embrace you as being a member again. And I watched that and said, I thought God is supposed to be a God of mercy and love, and I don't see where this is love and mercy and forgiveness or any of that. I don't see any of that by the treatment of somebody like that,
I got a question.
so
I'm
sure.
sorry. I got a question on what you're saying. So if someone did something that was dishonorable or not right, they would be punished sometimes for a year, correct?
Yes.
Now, so then they're welcome back after a year, whatever months there are, right? They're welcome
Yes.
back, right? Would you say their mind was their mind was dominated or so controlled that they stuck around to be brought back? I say that because of this. Nowadays, you hurt a Negro's feelings, they're behind to leave and never come back.
Hmm.
let alone be put out for a year, then allowed to come back. You look
Hmm.
at them the wrong way. They're out of there.
Right.
Nowadays. So would you say it had a lot to do with mind control and the fear that kept them stationary until they was brought back?
Yes, and to
Mm-hmm.
endure that abuse of not being acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they were able to do it, because I definitely would have left and said, you know, bump this. I'm not going to sit up here and listen to this and listen to the contradiction of God being a God of love and mercy and forgiveness and
Mm-hmm.
all of this, but yet because I made a mistake, because we're all supposed, I thought, and I would always say, because I even questioned that once and said, didn't the blood of Jesus actually cover, sins of people? I mean, but what you're showing here is that person doesn't have the covenant coverage of the blood of Jesus that he basically sacrificed himself for.
According to
So,
their teaching.
yes. So, what's this? And there would be crickets in the room
Mm.
when I would say that. And then once again, they would start to go through scripture to tell me that I needed to fall in line again. But you're not
Mm.
answering my question, though. You're not dealing with the issues that I'm grappling with to try to understand why this religion is supposed to be the true religion of God and in the best interest of his people. You haven't been able to demonstrate that to me.
Mm.
And again, the only thing they would do is just go through scripture. And I said, you know what? I am getting tired of this.
Mm.
And then, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you have a responsibility to go out and field service. And if you probably don't know what that is unless you've been one or studied, but you see the people standing on the corner, they have the track magazines and they have the watchtower and they awake, and
Mm-hmm.
they try to encourage you to engage you in conversation and ask you if you're saved or do you believe in Jesus, and want to get you engaged that way. And then they start telling you that other Christian organizations are actually tools of the devil, and
Mm.
that they are not actually practicing Christianity as God has foreseen, and that they are not the chosen religion or the chosen people, but they are. So,
Let me just interject real quick. So hold that thought. That's why I purposely, in the introduction, shared the stats. There's 200 Christian denomination this is in the U.S., 45,000 globally. And I asked the question, which one is right? Which one's telling the truth? Which one is of God? You know what I'm saying? Because every one of them was saying we're the right one.
right.
That's confusing as hell.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying? And even if a Christian listen to this right now, they'll say they got the right one.
Yes. Yes.
I just want to say that.
Yes. So, I mean, and like I was saying, as the Jehovah's Witnesses, you have a responsibility to go out and field service to convert people to
Mm-hmm.
becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you're not doing that, then you got to have another meeting with the elders about why you're not out in field service. So I
Mm-hmm.
started telling them, I said, I cannot go out to get people to become a part of a religious organization or any organization that I personally am grappling with. I see that as hypocrisy. I see that as being an abomination before God, because in the Bible it talks about how seriously God views hypocrisy, and I can't do it. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Okay, because when I have to stand before God according to what we learn in the Bible, that I'm standing there by myself. I can't use you or anybody as the excuse as to the reason why I perpetrated hypocrisy,
Mm,
regardless of what anybody says. I got to deal with that judgment before God on my by myself.
mm-hmm,
Okay. And since I have to do that by myself, that means that I have to take responsibility for my actions and everything that I do by myself. And I'm doing that right now. If I have a problem with this, we got to get rid of my own doubt before I can actually go out and try to convert people.
mm.
So I'm not going out and field service until that changes. I've asked you for help about this before and was ignored. And until I get that help, don't expect me to go out and field service.
How did they deal with you based after that?
Oh, oh, I mean, I was starting to get a reputation at the in the congregation of being walking into the door of becoming an apostate. So people were starting to shun themselves from me.
Mm,
But I had already thought about that. I already looked at that and said, I know this is going to happen with the position that I'm taking. So I need to prepare myself for that mentally and emotionally. Now, remember, when you grow up as being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, anybody who knows, you're in the world and no part of the world. So you don't deal with anything outside of the organization. You don't have friendships outside of the organization. You don't have relationships with other people outside of the organization. All your friends, family, and everything that you do is described by the religious organization, and you can't go outside of that. So I had to think about what it was going to be like for me to walk away from this religion and not have one friend,
mm.
not have one support mechanism, because not even my family, because once you decide to walk away, you're supposed to be dead to your family. They can't even talk to you. They can't have anything to do with you, which is another one of the fear tactics that they use, the knowing that if you leave, and your whole family is part of this religious organization, you have to leave all of them behind, which means you have no support. You have nobody.
Right. And you know what, sister, what comes to my mind? Because if somebody may listen to this and say, well, I got nothing to do with Jehovah Witnesses. That's just them. I shared with you how many Christian denominations globally, 45,000.
Yes.
How many in the United States? 200. Jehovah Witness is a Christian denomination, just
Yes.
like Baptist,
Yes.
Pentecostal, Kojic, Methodist, AME. They're all Christian organizations
Yes.
under that umbrella. So
Yes.
I don't want you to get confused that it's different from what you're into. And number two, sister, what you talked about, I know when you walk away from something, I did it in a traditional way. All my friends, I shared with you earlier, all my friends were believers, went to weddings and cookouts
Yes.
and
Yep.
birthday parties, and with each other's houses and
Yes.
fellowship.
Yep.
As soon as I walked out the traditional, I was ended up by myself. I could count on one hand how many people stuck with me. So, and that was just painful. And I look, that's painful. With hundreds, but now you got 2 or 3 real friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? And one more thing, I'm gonna let you talk. When you said how religion broke up the family, how it was designed to break up the family. If you ain't a Christian, if you ain't a Jehovah Witness, if you ain't a Muslim, if you ain't this and that, we're gonna talk about the Christianity, Jehovah Witnesses, Baptist, whatever. The Bible says, talk about paraphrasing, don't fellowship with unbelievers.
Right.
Don't even
Yep.
sit down and eat with them.
Don't become
Right?
unevenly yoked.
Yoke with them. Stay away from them. So therefore, a lot of families have been fractured because of religion.
Yes.
Where if you are religious, you're supposed to go out to save people, not
Yes.
reject those people. So
Yes.
yeah, it's just I don't want to take over, but that's what it reminded me of. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know,
That's the
so
hypocrisy. Those are, and I talked about that. I was like, according to the Bible, we're supposed to be some of the most loving, forgiving people out there. But
mhm,
yet, if somebody decides that they don't want to be part of the religious organization, my family, my family has to rebuke me, and I am dead to them. My
mhm,
mom and my dad have to go around telling people that I no longer exist,
mm,
that I never was even born for the most part. I have no existence. My siblings that happen to be part of this organization can no longer acknowledge the fact that I'm alive. And if
mm.
anything were to happen to me, they can't come to visit me. They can't come to see me. They can't help me. None of that can happen according to the way the religious organization is put together. You are to be dead to them. And they say that just like that. You are dead to them.
And you know,
Where's the love?
right. And you know a
Where's
lot
the
of
mercy?
right. And you know a lot of black folks running around here with abandonment issues and rejection issues. So they'll stick with something, abide by it, conform, just to be a part of something.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Even if it's abusing them
Yes.
or doing nothing for them. You know,
Yes.
so I want to throw that out there.
Yes. So I mean, it was terrible. And I mean, I really had no skills, no interpersonal skills or social skills when I left to deal in the world as it is, and had to gain all of those as a full-fledged adult, because there were many experiences that I never had. We couldn't
Mhm.
celebrate birthdays. Um they don't celebrate Christmas. Um there is the only holiday, there's only two celebrations that Jehovah's Witnesses have. That is the Passover, acknowledging the death of Christ, and marriage celebrations and anniversaries. That's it.
So the Passover.
Yep.
So don't the Passover represent God's supposed to be killing black babies in Egypt?
Yeah, but
But they
that's the
celebrate
only
that. They celebrate
that's
that.
the only thing, not the Passover, but the death of Christ is they what they celebrate. That's it.
Or the Passion of Christ or something like that.
Yes, that's it. That's the only thing that they celebrate.
Oh,
His
okay.
death and his rising.
Got you.
That's it. Other than that, nothing else.
Well, I
Birthdays,
could.
because they say that birthdays, if you're celebrating someone's birthday, you're taking away from God by celebrating somebody's birthday. And you're putting God in the second position and not the first by celebrating a birthday. And then they use examples in the Bible to show where when birthdays were celebrated, bad things happened.
Mm. They know how to connect it, boy.
Yes.
But I do commend them on not celebrating all these holidays.
Yep.
They got something right. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
that's something they got right on there.
Yep. They don't
You know?
celebrate any holidays.
Hmm.
Easter, well, Easter, I guess, would be, the rising of Christ. Um, but Christmas, Thanksgiving, any of the other holidays, there's no celebration for those. And growing up as being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you can't participate in any of that. When they used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, I had to leave the classroom and stand outside until they
Mm.
finished saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I couldn't go on school trips. I always had to go to the library when school trips happened. I couldn't participate in classmates because sometimes they have their birthday parties at school in the class. Couldn't participate in any of that. Couldn't participate in sports or any of that because
Mm,
it was always drilled in my head, you're in the world but you're no part of the world, and that's worldly stuff and you can't be a part of that.
mm. And our subject once again, y'all, is religious indoctrination, a recipe for mind control. Just
Yes.
want to go to yep. She's hitting on point. She's hitting these major points. Yes,
So
yes, yes.
so one day at 25, I decided that I was leaving. I actually wrote letters to, before this, I wrote letters to the elders basically outlining the problems that I was having. And
Mm-hmm.
no one ever came to see me. No one ever came to see me. No one seemed to be concerned. I stopped going to the meetings. I'd already told them that I wasn't going out in field service anymore. So no one came to see me. But then when I called them up and said that I wanted to have a meeting with them because I was leaving the organization, oh, one thing I forgot to mention. Before I told them that I was leaving, I had to tell my mom because I knew that she would be upset. And I'll never forget this day. We were riding in the car together. And when I told my mom I was leaving, she almost had an accident
Mm.
because she could not believe that I was saying that I was leaving. And I told her, I said, I'm setting up a meeting to let the elders know that I am no longer going to be a part of this religion, Ma. And I wanted to tell you first. I didn't want you to hear it through the grapevine or somebody else. I wanted you it to come directly from my mouth to your ears. I said, I realized that this religion has been responsible for most of the pain
Keep
and
talking.
destruction
Mm-hmm.
and all the problems that I've ever had in my life has always been attached to this religion. You know, you married a man in this religion who was abusive to us. He was physically, emotionally, and psychologically abusive to your children. And yet, we couldn't even contact the police and get the authorities involved to protect. You couldn't even do that to protect your children because, according to them, you're not supposed to hail your brother to Caesar and all of that. So you can't even call the police and get the authorities involved. I knew of a friend of mine whose father killed his mother because he was physically abusive to her, and he ended up killing her.
Mm.
And she never left because of the fact that she was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And that man finally killed her. I don't remember what happened to him, but from what I remember, he didn't he wasn't away. He didn't go to prison. I know that. He didn't go to prison for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And her sons were really messed up about what happened to their mother. But when I left them and all of that behind because they stayed part of the religion. So when I met with the elders, there's a book called the Organization Book and the Organizational Structure. And it talks about being disfellowshipped. It talks about you leaving the organization and being considered an apostate. It talks about all of that and what could happen to an individual and what's supposed to happen if someone decides to take these steps. So I read that book from cover to cover. So when I went to meet with these three men, two which were white men, one was a black man, and I basically just outlined to them. I read the organization book, and I understand if I leave under these circumstances, this is supposed to happen. So I outlined that to them. They're just sitting there and they didn't even know how to take me
Mm.
because I basically covered every point that they were going to bring up to try to get me not to leave. So
Mhm.
there was an awkward silence in the room. And I was like, ooh, awkward silence. I guess there's really nothing more to say.
So after you left, how did your life change
When I
from
walked
being
out
under
that door and
from being under
closed
the
the
yoke?
door,
Yeah, from
it,
being under
it
the yoke of religion. Now I'm no longer under the yoke of that religious denomination. How did your life?
well, there was a tremendous weight lifted off my shoulders. I
Hmm.
felt like the burdens of all my life had been removed from my shoulders when I left. And I
Mm.
did not regret leaving at all. I had thought about for at least 2.5 years what my exit meant. And I also thought about things that I would have to do differently because the people that I considered to be my friends would no longer be my friends and available to me. So I had to look at finding other friends and make
Mhm.
and creating other relationships with other people to so I could live.
Mhm.
So I could live. So and at the time I did have a daughter at the time, and my daughter was how old was my daughter when I left? She was 10 when I left.
Mhm.
So our whole life changed, but I had talked to her about it, and the change was good for her because now she could celebrate birthdays, now she
Mhm.
could have friends over, now she could participate in school activities, now she could feel like she was part of society. Whereas before, she was starting to get bullied, and people were trying to figure out what was wrong with her because she couldn't participate and she couldn't go on school trips and things like that. Now she can go on school trips and participate, openly in school. My daughter at that time was thinking about playing basketball. So when she got to middle school, she was actually able to play.
Mhm.
And so her whole life changed for the better. Our life changed for the better.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I had to remind myself of certain things and certain directions that I would go in based on my indoctrination. So I had to relearn how to do a whole lot of different things. And that is not easy to do.
Mhm.
You find yourself, I remember sometimes even driving past the Kingdom Hall, driving past it on the days that I would normally go there.
Mm.
I would drive past there because I was so used to doing it. And this was all I knew. And then you also have the war within yourself because you're out here all alone saying, did I make the right decision?
Mm.
Was this a mistake? You don't have anybody. If anything's ever happened, you can't talk to anybody and things like that. But I had secret relationships with people in my family that could not be talked about.
Mm.
If I would sometimes my mom invited me to the house and I was like, "Are you sure that's what you want to do? You want to invite me because what if somebody sees me coming to your house or whatever?" So sometimes I would have to have go to my mom's house secretly. And if any of the Jehovah's Witnesses were coming over or whatever, I couldn't come over there on those days.
It reminded me of I was picturing a runaway slave. You know how runaway slaves come back and visit how you can't come right now. Master coming.
Yes,
Come tomorrow night.
yes, yes. It was
Oh
crazy.
man.
It was crazy, some of the things that had to happen. And my mom would remind me, well, I'm really not supposed to be doing this for you because
Mm.
you're supposed to be dead to me. She would say that every now and then. She would say that every now and then to me. And I was like, well, Ma, I guess I'm dead. I'm not coming back to this place. I was like, Ma, you have no idea how much freedom I have and how my life has changed. The yoke of that religion and the hypocrisy and all of that is gone. I don't have that in my life. I can actually live an honest life, more honest than I ever lived my entire life of being involved in this religion that is filled with so much hypocrisy.
In your Kingdom Hall, one of you was going to, what was the majority of the people, black or white, or was it equal?
It
Was it
was
close to the same?
predominantly, it was more white people there than black people
Okay.
at the time when I went there. And I even heard stories from people. This one woman, her name was Cynthia Butler, and she did a lot of traveling. And she told me that sometimes she would go to some kingdom halls, and they had the kingdom hall segregated where the black people would be in the basement listening to the service on speaker while the
Mm.
white people would be upstairs in the congregational hall, and they were the only ones that were allowed to actually sit up there. And she went to there, and they made her leave the kingdom hall because she refused to go in the basement.
Hmm.
And I said, if that right there wasn't enough, I said, why didn't you leave after that? Why didn't you leave the organization after that? After seeing that and experiencing that, why would you stay? And her answer, which was shocking, is that this is the true religion.
Yeah.
How is it the true religion though? You just experienced racism on a crazy level right there. But yet you believe that racism is supposed to be part of the agenda of a loving God, a loving God of justice and love and equality? Really?
Well, that's a good question. You if you look at what's going on nowadays, is it basically the same thing? You got 83% all black people are Christians, right? 2 billion worldwide, or probably more. You got Muslims; they're the fastest growing religion. They got a billion plus. You got Judaism, right? Now, these religions all forced upon us by our ancestors,
Our
capturers,
conquerors.
conquerors. And the question is, now that some of you know it, why you don't, why you still stick with it? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? We find a way to tweak it in our own mind, justify it, and all these other things, and say this is the true religion. It saved me. It got me off of drugs. It helped my marriage. Not that they did it with the help of the God, but through religion. And that's how it gets us. People think they need a religion to connect themselves to God, to get be empowered by God. They think they need religion. And
It
that's
just
the biggest scam that ever been done. I'm listening, yes, sister.
it just reminds me of Malcolm when he went through his struggle with Elijah Muhammad. He was so broken by the fact when he found out that this man was a terrible person, that it was hard for him to deal with that because this man, in his eyes, saved his life and made and fostered him to become a changed man for the betterment of himself.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he found out that this man was doing some terrible things.
He has some serious defects. Yes,
Yes,
like we
yes,
all do. Yeah,
yes,
right. Mm-hmm.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And he he lamented on that. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I appreciated most about Malcolm's position is that he understood that regardless of what his mentor was doing, that he had a responsibility within himself to do the right thing, regardless
Right.
of what his mentor was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if that meant calling him out, and if that meant exposing his atrocities because he wasn't willing to do it, then so be it.
Okay. Everybody have different thoughts on that, and I respect, Yep. Everybody got different thoughts. There's a lot went on with in that group that I don't know
Yes.
about.
Yes.
That, what I'm saying? I hear stuff, read stuff, but
Yes, me too.
so no, I would never try to debunk or refute what you're saying either.
Oh no,
There's
no.
yes, so many different thoughts and feelings about what happened, and stuff like that. But it was a religion. It's still a
Right.
religion,
Yep, it was
and
still a religion.
it's a
It was
religion,
still a
and
religion.
yeah, and
But
when
we
you
have to take that position. We have to take that position and release the shackles.
right,
We have
um,
to get rid of the shackles.
right,
We
right,
do. We have to get rid of the shackles. Religion was created to enslave the minds, spirit, and soul of people.
right, right,
And they knew that we are extremely spiritual people by nature, and use that as a tool to enslave us. And like they always say, the physical change was nothing compared to the mental and psychological change imposed upon us. What does the Bible say? Teach a boy or a child the way for them, and they will never do what? They
depart
will
from it.
never turn aside from it. They will never depart from it. That's a powerful statement. That basically 100% supports the indoctrination and the power of it, and talks about the power. And most people do not have the strength to be able to walk away from something, even when they know that it's not right.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Even when
sir.
they're seeing the hypocrisy,
Mm-hmm.
even when they're seeing and experiencing the abusiveness of it, they will not, and they will support it 100%.
Right.
They will make it look like it's the best thing since sliced bread, even though they know it's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's mind control. That is the example of mind control right there.
Right. And I say, and speaking to the audience, those who may see us later on, right? I'm not a bitter person. Like I said, I was raised in church, licensed ordained as a Baptist preacher. I didn't buy my credentials off the internet. It was legitimate. Went through the proper process. So I don't forget where I come from. I don't hate religion. I'm not bitter. I don't have church hurt. I'm not trying to attack it, trying to convince you to do anything with it or against it. You know what I'm saying? But it's something I do stand on is what our great scholar, African ancestor, Baba John Henry Clark, he says, I'm paraphrasing, he says, I don't subscribe to any religion, nor do I have any major problems with them. But if your religion is not being used as an instrument for Black liberation, you need to throw it in the ash can of history. And I stand on that. You can be whatever religion you want to be in, but if it's not being used as an instrument for Black liberation, that crap is null and void, is no good. You need to chuck that crap away, because all it will do is control your mind and control your life. Because religion, the way we know it today, is a system of oppression and control. Here, my sister,
Yes,
give it back to you.
very much so, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And if people, when you're struggling, and there are a lot of people that are struggling
Mm-hmm.
to stay within their religion. I mean, I've talked to people that have talked about, where they or family members were physically and were sexually assaulted by people, pastors, whomever, religious leaders in their church, but yet they still subscribe to the church.
Yep.
And I said, don't you see the contradiction? Doesn't that like make your gut tear up when this person is reading you verses from the Bible that talks about the 10 commandments or any of the things in Corinthians and Romans that talks about God and justice?
Mm-hmm.
And if you practice certain things, that there's a high price for you to pay before God related to it. But yet this person who committed some terrible atrocities is the one that's telling people this. And you're saying to yourself while you're sitting there, when is his comeuppance gonna come? When is he going to experience the justice from this loving God that's justice, that's supposed to be about justice, mercy, and love? When is this person going to actually experience that?
Mm.
When is Christ and the blood of Christ going to redeem you and the people that got hurt by this individual? When is that going to happen?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When?
That's right.
And if it's not happening, why are you still there? Because that right there is telling you that there's something wrong with the organization that you're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, just like Brother Wilson said, I'm not trying to convince you or anyone to walk away from anything. But as my father used to tell me all the time, question everything.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. The analytical and critical thinker.
Question everything. And when
That's
you
right.
hear something that doesn't sound right, you need to check that out.
And you know it don't sound right, and you know it don't make no damn sense.
Right. And
That's a
you're like,
double
what?
whammy. That's a double whammy.
Yes, it is. And then when you start to question it and people get mad and they want to rebuke you, right then and there, they're telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling you something. And when you go and look up the information and say, I found this and this is what it says, how do you explain this? And then they get mad at you,
Mm-hmm.
ball up whatever it is you gave them and throw it in the garbage, and then talk about how they want to rebuke you. You need to question that.
Yeah. You need to rebuke that the slave mind. That's what you need to rebuke.
Yeah.
Rebuke that slave mind and that shackles of religion on your brain. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? And this is not a popular discussion right here. It's not popular. People don't like this stuff to be their religion or their beliefs to be challenged.
Yes.
They don't want to. They don't want to have to think. Because thinking is painful.
Yes.
No, I dedicate my whole life to this. My mama was a part of this. I pass it down to my children. Nobody gonna mess this up for me. The devil is a liar. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
But yet, one of your children ended up being sexually assaulted
Mm,
by one of these people that's supposed to be your religious leader.
mm,
And you still are going to say that you want to impose this on another generation of your family?
mm, mm. Yep. Yep.
That's what you want?
Yep.
That's supposed to be the best thing. That's supposed to be the Christly thing that's supposed to be happening. That's what the God of love has set out for you. That's the abundance that you're supposed to reap.
And promise you a mansion in the sky after you die. You'll get your heaven in, you'll get your paradise when you leave here, but you'll suffer like hell like Jesus on earth.
Yes.
While the enemy, the open enemy, is creating their heaven here on earth.
Yes.
And they ask for forgiveness on their deathbed
Yes.
and they get to heaven. They
Yes.
forgiven. I
Yes.
wait to the last minute on my deathbed and it's I've sent Jesus.
Yes.
Oh man, that's deep. Well, yo, how Malcolm said, we've been had, we've been hooked, we've
Bamboozled.
been bamboozled, run amok.
Yep.
You know.
And as long as one of my favorite sayings that I've said to my children over the years, truly, there are no victims, only volunteers. The only people that I can say truly are victim are children. Okay. But when you're an adult and people walk right into a situation with your eyes wide open, how are you a victim when you volunteer for that? When you walked up to those shackles that they placed before you and they told you to put those on, and you put them on, and then they just repeatedly beat you and into a bloody pulp, and then you want to turn around and play victim and say, oh, they were so terrible to me. But how did you get there in the first place? Is the question to ask. Who put those shackles on you to allow that to happen? They handed them to you and told you to put them on, and you dutifully did so, knowing full well what was going to happen. And even if you didn't, that's like a person who has a knife that walks up to you and they plan to kidnap you or assault you in some way, and they say to you, I promise, if you put these shackles on and these handcuffs on, you let me tie you up, I promise you. I promise I'm not going to hurt you. I promise I won't. Will you do that? Will you trust that person to allow them to bind you and expect that they are going to have your best interest at heart? Does it sound like what they're talking about and they want you to do, that they have your best interest at heart?
She talked to you, some of y'all who like that kinky sex. You like to be chained up and all. All right. Let me stay on topic. We talk about being bound.
What are you gonna do? Because once he has you bound, or they have you bound, now they're gonna tell you the truth about what it is they really want to do. Yep. Because how are you going to get out? How are you going to be able to release your bounds and defend yourself now?
Yep. And what's that saying? Slavery, the chains of slavery, physical chains, was devastating. But the worst form of slavery is mental slavery.
Yes, mental.
And they use the fear of religion, or religion and fear, because religion is most effective when it's coupled with fear, right, to train our brains. Not just the religion, you got the educational system, the miseducational system. You got all these different things we've been indoctrinated with that got chains on our brain.
And fear is the biggest tool that they use.
Ashe. Sister, we got 10 minutes
that they use.
Yep, we got 10 minutes. All right. And just letting you know, we got 10 minutes. And continue to talk. We got 10 minutes left.
Yes. So we have to get over the fear. We have to look at what the fear is. And the question that you can take a step back and meditate for a second and say, why are they making me afraid right now? What is the goal of me being afraid? What are we
Mm-hmm.
talking about? What is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
That way you can step back and not allow the fear to overtake you. Because one thing that my father used to say, that I've said to my children and I say all the time, he used to tell us all the time that being emotional and being logical cannot be housed in the same space at the same time. So you got to choose,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And being emotional means your brain's turned off, and
Mm-hmm.
fear is an emotion. So you turn that brain off, which means that now somebody just put a hook in your nose and they can lead you anywhere they want you to go. But if you don't allow yourself to be overtaken by fear and continue to think, you'll be like, whoa, wait, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I being made afraid? Whatever this subject is, I think I might need to look at that a little closer to find out why they're trying to make me afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And start paying attention to things around in your environment to try to understand why they want to misdirect you, because that's what fear does. It misdirects you and it makes you look at something else or nothing at all, because you're hysterical in your mind, so you can't really focus and think about anything. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly where they want you to go, because now they can lead you wherever, to
Shay.
your own demise.
Mm-hmm. Shay.
And then you can pass that right along to your children to
Mm-hmm.
do the same thing, which is the greater goal of using fear.
Mm-hmm. Shay. Shay. Sister, you uncovered some good stuff on today. And once again, I know that it's a topic of stuff that people want to hear about, or no, it's very important to hear. But people don't want to be challenged. They don't want to feel like they was deceived or tricked or manipulated, or they wasted their whole life believing in something that they don't understand. And Stevie Wonder said it best: "Superstitious ain't the way.
Mm-hmm.
Superstition ain't the way." You know what I'm saying? So, and this is what we try to do on a platform. And I appreciate the fact that you took the time out to really share your story and with the audience. We definitely going to have you back because you got a lot more knowledge and a lot more topics, and you can talk about. And so we're definitely gonna have you back, and definitely appreciate that. And those of you who are watching this, who will be watching this, sit down and pick it apart and then share it with somebody. You may know somebody who's struggling with religion and afraid of coming out of something because the family members not going to like them anymore, or they're going to be rejected, or somebody going to tell them that they're bound by the devil, or Satan got them, and all these different things. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of people struggling with that. I struggle with that. And some days it surfaces. You know what I mean? That old doctrination, the fear of whatever, because it was years and years and years that it was inculcated in my mind, in my spirit. So, sister, once again, thank you so much. I'll let you say what you need to say. And thank you, people, for tuning in and supporting. We pray that if you have it in your heart, if you like to, there's a way you can donate towards our platform. The information at the bottom of the screen. You got our Cash App information there, $GIAM number 20, or our PayPal, paypal.me/HOTEP number 2. And so if you like to, we're not telling you what you need to give, but whatever you give, it will definitely helpful to keep our platform going, reaching the people. All right. As I said before, we don't do this for money, but it takes money for us to do this. So we ask that support us, donate something, whatever is in your heart. And We appreciate it and we thank you in advance. All right, sister, you close us out.
Yes. Anybody that has any questions or any information or just want to just talk about your struggle that you might be having with this or anything, I am definitely reachable. Anybody that has Brother Wilson's information can get in contact with me. Um, you can also contact me through the Fresh Food Gazette. I can give that number to anyone that might want to give me a call and, maybe we can talk, things like that. My telephone number is 518 599 5807. Again, that's 518 599 5807. And just to talk about the Fresh Food Gazette, which I brought about, it's an alternative food program where we get natural, organic, wild craft, non-GMO, clean food from local farmers
Mhm.
that you can actually take advantage of so we can feed our families healthily. Because even though we live in a capitalist society and it basically says that wealth and the amount of money you have in the bank is your true wealth. The true wealth that you have is your health. Because if you are sick, it's not going to matter how many zeros you have in your bank account. When you look at it, all of a sudden, it's not going to bring that miraculous cure that brings you good health.
Right.
So you need to be taking care of yourself. And one other thing that's pinnacle that people have to understand is that you set the example that your children will follow, no matter what you might say. Oh, don't smoke because it's bad for you. But if you're smoking in front of your children, they are definitely going to do it too. So whatever example that you might be putting out there, your children are going to follow whether you like it or not. So we have to lead that charge, and we need to lead it correctly.
Okay. That it?
Yes.
Well done, sister. You did a beautiful job. Appreciate you so much. And I know time is valuable, so we thank you for taking time out to spend time with us, and hope to see you again.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. You did very well. Very good. And our technology worked. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? This is our first um, live talk, interview, message, all combined. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And looking forward to doing many more with other people too.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome.
My sister, thank you so much. And we always close out with this. Whoever's on, raise that beautiful fist. You know how we go out? Amandla.
Amandla.
Meaning power.
Yes.
Power to the people. My time is up. Thank you for listening. Hotep, I'll see you next time, sister. Hotep to you. Much love and respect.
Yes.
Real talk. Thank you.
You're
You
welcome.
can see yourself out. Hotep. Thank you, brothers and sisters. We thank you for tuning in. And once again, I hope you got something out of what we did today. And I know I'm not gonna be mess with my people. I know a lot of people's attention span is short. So, but hey, thank you for tuning in, for watching whatever you watched, and hope to see you again. And if you know somebody who's versed in some knowledge that's going to elevate our people, empower our people, uplift our people, did I say encourage our people, and properly educate our people, let me know who it is, male or female. Okay, let me know who it is. All right, you know how to get in contact with me. All right, those of you who know me, you know how to get in contact with me. Email me or give me a call. Introduce me to them so we can get them on the platform too. All right, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. My time is up. Hotep, family.